Hello, gorgeous humans. Welcome to the morning show. How are you feeling? Today, we're diving into this, I'm going to say, most important boundary you could put in for yourself to stop leaking your manifestation power. Let's go. What's up? How are we feeling? I am your host, Marli Ansel. I am a spiritual teacher and a transformational coach for women who are stepping into owning their power. And today we have to talk about this. Okay, let's dive in. So, last week I had quite a few client calls. It was a busy back to back to back kind of week. And there was one theme with every single client that I talked to, and that was boundaries. Now, this one specific boundary that I'm going to share with you today, you have likely not even thought about because I'm going to tell you when I started coaching them through it, it was like, oh, this was not even in their awareness that they could do this. So last week, I was talking with a few clients. And in those conversations, the thing that was most apparent was that they were not holding themselves within their own standards, values, and boundaries for the life that they want. Okay, so let's break it down. When we move through different seasons of life, you're gonna have time periods that feel like a spiral down. Amen. There, everyone goes through this. You're gonna have a time period that is a chapter where things don't seem like they're really going right, or you go through a hard time. Maybe you had to go through a breakup or a divorce, or your career changed suddenly, or whatever it is. Everyone goes through a season of life that feels like a downshift. You with me on this? It feels like things are just not going right. It feels like I don't know what to do. It feels like I'm losing myself. Now, in my world, we teach this process where it is your internal self is essentially shifting. Basically, it's life saying it's time to change, it's time to shift, and we need to move you into a new chapter. So, in my world, the way that we describe this is your identity is shifting. You're essentially letting go of who you were to make room for who you're becoming. Now, in this process, when you're in that chapter of life that feels like a downshift, feels like life is closing in on you, pushing you to a new level, oftentimes it looks like something we don't want to happen, right? It looks like a breakup. It looks like getting fired from your job. It looks like things are just not going right. In that time period, here's what you have to know: that is all happening with purpose to push you into a new level of life. Okay. Now, with it comes some emotion. Amen. Like with it comes because we're human. So you're going to have this time period where you feel sad. You might label it as depression. You might label it as anxiety. You have this processing of your emotions that happens. That's not a bad thing. But here's the boundary. Here's the boundary that you have to stop leaking your power. When you move through the time period where you are letting go, which is essentially that downshift of energy, where you're letting go of an old chapter, you're letting go of an old version of you, you're letting go of an old relationship, you're letting go of an old job, you're letting go of an old dream, even. This is so real, and we don't talk about it enough. Sometimes the dream that you had for yourself expires. It just expires. Sometimes it's like, I actually don't want that anymore. And there's a grieving process. There's a grieving process with any chapter that ends. And in that time period, yes, we got to feel our feels. We got to let that emotion move through us. We've got to process it out. But here's the boundary: at some point, you have to stop allowing your emotion to lead you. Did we hear it? Oh, at some point, you have to stop allowing your emotion to lead you. So, even in that time period where you are moving through sadness, I want you to have this awareness. The emotion that you feel is not who you are. The emotion that you feel is not who you are. The emotion that you feel is an energy that's moving out of your body. And so long as we allow it to move, it will move quickly, it will move through. But once you identify with your emotion, which by the way, we're not taught this, so a lot of us are out there doing this. As long as you identify with the emotion, you're stuck. You're stuck with that emotion. So the boundary you have to put in place with yourself is that I decide who I am, not the way I feel. Not my emotions decide who I am. You with me on this? I decide who I am, not my emotions. So, what this looks like is like there's going to be a time period where you're processing out how you feel. And that's necessary. We need that. We talk about this all day long. We know in my world, I always encourage like, if you need to cry, you need to go cry. Do not stifle that. Do not suppress that. Let that move out of your body. But the important distinction in this is you cannot let your emotions define you. And at some point, you have to get out of that patterning. Hear me on this. At some point, you have to take the reins back and you have to decide, I think I'm done feeling sad. I think I'm done shifting around in this old pattern. I think I'm ready to start deciding how I want to feel and what do I want to create from here. Now, this does not mean that you never feel sadness again. This doesn't mean that you never feel frustration again. But when we move through something that's tough, a lot of times that emotion becomes so dominant in our lives, we feel as though it runs us. Amen. I mean, how many times, like we've seen the definitions around what we label as depression or anxiety. Like I was having a conversation with a client this past week and I had to call her out because she kept calling anxiety my anxiety, claiming that thing all day long. Here's what I'm going to tell you. If you don't want it in your life, don't claim it. Don't claim it. Don't claim it as yours, like it's your child, like it's what I want to take on in my life. You got to identify it. Absolutely. Absolutely identify it. I feel the energy of anxiety, but don't claim it as yours. You've got to allow the emotion to move through you without identifying with it. You guys with me? Okay, so what happens in this is once you are able to separate yourself from from the emotion so that you can see the emotion, now you have established your power as the higher consciousness who's witnessing the emotion. Once you do that, now you have the power to direct where the energy goes. Where before, so those of you who have heard me talk about it before, we have an entire section in the spiritual coach training program on emotionality and how emotionality can define your life until you start establishing yourself and you realize that the emotions are an energy that's running through you. The emotions are something you can direct. The emotions are something that you can witness rather than allowing them to lead you. So the boundary you have to put in place is your emotions cannot lead you. They can't lead you. And this, even more so, I want you to think about it like this because everything comes down to how we feel at the end of the day. Everything you do is you are either trying to prevent a feeling or create a feeling. Everything. So when we're looking at our life and the quality of life that we want, there has to be a boundary in place with what I am willing to allow myself to sit in, spiral in, create with, move with, identify with. You have to put a boundary in place. No more will I identify with my emotions. I will feel my emotions. I will witness my emotions. I will love my emotions, but I will no longer allow them to define me. Because if you don't, emotion will lead your life. And when emotion leads your life, that's what creates that feeling of I don't have control. I can't manifest what I want. I can't create the level of life that I want because you're not leading, you're allowing the emotional energy to lead you. Do you feel me on this? So we have to don't try to fix the emotions. That's not what we need to do. That could be a whole other talk today. It's not about fixing your emotions because when you try to fix your emotions, what are you doing? going into the emotions leading me, so I've got to fix it so it can lead me somewhere else. No, you witness it and then you decide where it's going to go from here. So, in example, I had a client, she told me that she woke up and she was just feeling sad, which we all have those days. Amen. In the hallelujah. It was like, especially as women, our hormonal fluctuations are all over the place sometimes. We'll wake up feeling sad sometimes. It's fine. It's no big deal. You see, it's fine. It's no big deal. It does not define you. It does not mean anything. Okay. So I'm talking with her about this and I'm telling her as she's explaining this to me, and she's just like, I just don't know why I was feeling that. Oh, but then I traced it back and I realized like this triggered that and then that happened. And so like that's why I was feeling sad and blah, blah, blah. And that's great. And that's beautiful. We want that. We want you, we want you to understand where your sadness is coming from. But what I was explaining to her was there was a season where you really needed to be in that sadness. She needed to process, right? It needed to come out of her. But now she's in a brand new chapter of life. Now she's in a brand new season. And what happens is that our bodies can learn the pattern of our emotionality better than our minds know it. So no longer am I in control of the emotionality because my body is doing it like a pattern. It's like, oh, we get sad every fourth Thursday. I know it sounds silly, but in actuality, this is what happens because our bodies and our cells are just programming. So if we develop the pattern of being sad every day at 3 o'clock because I'm slumping now in my like afternoon tiredness, and then I go into the story that says, well, I wouldn't be sad if I was doing what I actually wanted to do, but I'm stuck in this job and I have to stay in this job. And you see how quickly that happens, right? So our bodies will learn the patterns of our emotions and then it'll run like clockwork. So for a time period when you're moving through something hard, you're going to have a lot of emotionality move through your body because you're letting go of that old chapter. You're letting go and processing out an old version of you. There's a grieving to that. And that's beautiful and that's fine. And if you do not decide when you're going to shift out of that, that processing can set up a pattern and that pattern will just run itself. Like, oh, we're just sad. I'm just a sad person. It's just my depression. It's just my anxiety. Do we see? We're throwing our power to the emotion rather than owning your power and witnessing the emotion and then deciding and directing where it's going to go. So, the number one boundary, I know I've already said it twice, but the number one boundary you have to put in place with yourself, is that I am not my emotion. I actually decide the emotion. So on this in this story where she woke up feeling sad, it's like fine. No big deal. You woke up feeling sad. How do you want to feel today? How do you want to feel today? And as you decide how you want to feel, which by the way, sometimes we want to feel sad, right? Sometimes we're like, blanket, pillow, Netflix, crying. This is what I want to do today. And that I want to say this really, really clearly. That's fine if that is what you are intentionally deciding to do. But if you're allowing your emotion, oh, I'm sad today, I can't do anything, I have to sit on the couch and do nothing because I'm sad, that's the distinction I want to put in. If you are being intentional with your self nurturing care, because I'm hormonal and emotional today and I don't want to do anything, beautiful, beautiful. But make sure you're the one deciding it. You feel me on this? Make sure you're the one deciding it. If you're like, I'm sick of this. I don't want to feel this. Ugh, I wanted it to be a really productive, beautiful day. I wanted to do all this stuff. I wanted to initiate new stuff today. Okay. Your emotion does not define you. So if you woke up with a sadness, you woke up with a feeling, here's what I would do because I've done it a million times. Sit on your little meditation spot and call it all up. Don't suppress it. Don't tell it it's wrong. Don't make up a story. Don't try to fix it. Literally create space, sit down, Call every bit of it up. So energy will move as we command it. Call it up. Sit down. Give yourself 10 minutes. Seriously, 10 minutes and it will be done. Call it all up. Bring every bit of that sadness energy through. Cry with no holds if that's what you need to do. Scream with no holds if that's what you need to do. If you live with other people, just get a pillow, put in your face, whatever. Move it. 10 minutes to feel your feels. And then get super clear for yourself what makes you feel good. Like, I know, for example, that if I meditate, work out, um, do my like the things that light my soul, like I love to paint. I love my like herbal things, my like herbal medicine things, like actual herbs and growing and creating those things. The things that make you happy, going on a walk in nature, whatever it is, know what makes you happy. Know what helps your energy to come online. Showing up and talking to you guys is a big, like, it helps my energy to just like, let's freaking go. Know the things that bring you joy. So you're going to sit down for 10 minutes. You're going to call every bit of that sadness up, let it come out. Don't resist it, don't suppress it, don't try to run away from it, don't try to fix it. Let it come out and don't make a story about it. Cry, scream, whatever you need to do. Move that energy, but put a cap on it. You're not staying here all day. Amen. 10 minutes. Get it all out and then get up and go move your body. Go do something that brings you joy. Maybe it's like, I love going on a walk and then I love meeting up with a friend for coffee. Go do that. Do you see what I'm saying? Do the things that make you happy, that you can do, that you have access to. This is going to show you that you have control over how you feel. Emotion is going to move through you. That's part of being human. But if we give it story, if we allow it to lead us, then we're going to stay stuck. And that is, nobody wants to be stuck, right? So you're going to create the space for it. You're going to let it come out. You're going to cap it. And then you're going to get up and you're going to go do the things that bring you joy. Doesn't matter how big or small it is, but go do the things that bring you joy. The things that, even though you might be resistant to, because I'm thinking like, I'm always resistant to work out. But I know every single time I work out, I feel so good after that. I call these your higher self habits. Go do the things that you know consistently, without fail, will make you feel good, even though you're resisting them. This is how we start to take the reins back on our life. This is how we start to cultivate that inner power that has always been there, but we've been throwing it away to our emotions. Amen in the holiest. So I want to reiterate again, I am not saying don't feel your emotions. I'm not saying don't feel your emotions. I'm saying be the leader of your emotional energy. Don't allow your emotions to lead you. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to stifle them. Don't try to suppress them. You be the one that decides where that emotional energy goes. Okay. Now there's another piece to this, and I'm going to try and say it real quick and then we're going to wrap it. A lot of times we feel a feel and then we put a story with something that's going on in our lives. We blame something outside of ourselves for how we feel. That is called conditional power, and that is not going to help you out. Okay. So a lot of times we feel a feel and then we link it to something that's happening in our lives. And we say, if that was different, then I would feel different. But do you see how that's throwing your power away immediately? Right? So once we can detach the emotionality from the circumstance, hear me on this, detach the emotionality from the circumstance. See the circumstance as neutral, no meaning, no emotion, no story. Now, what are you left with? An emotion that just needs to move. So move the emotion. And then once you move the emotion out of your body, then go and decide, okay, what was that circumstance? Okay, what would I prefer to see in this circumstance? Because every circumstance only holds the meaning you give it. So if I had an emotional energy and I was linking it to a circumstance, well, I'm automatically giving that circumstance a meaning that is disempowering just because I'm feeling some feels. You feel me on this? So you got to detach. This is what, when we talk about in the manifestation world, detachment, detach the emotional energy from the circumstance. Because so long as I feel some type of way about what's going on in my life, number one, I'm the one giving it power. It doesn't have power. You're giving it power through your emotionality. And two, you're keeping it stuck in your life by giving it that emotional power. So, as soon as you can detach your emotional energy from the circumstance, it's like starving that energy of the circumstance. So, if it's something that's been like holding you down, making you feel like you're not worthy, all of those things, once you decide, I am no longer going to feel this with this anymore, I'm done, detach the emotional energy from it, that leaves you with just the emotional energy. You with me? Process that out of your body. And then now you can decide, what do you want to shift to? What do you want to create from that circumstance? Because in all ways and in all things, we are the ones deciding where things go in our life. But until we take ownership over our own emotions and realize we are the power that is giving it power, it's going to feel like it runs you. But that's not the truth. You with me? Okay. So, emotional detachment, allowing yourself to process, and then you get up and decide what you're going to do, how you're going to feel. Feed your body with the things that make you feel good, the things that give you energy on a daily basis. In the beginning, if you've been in the old patterning for a while, it's going to feel hard. It is. But it's mind hard. It's not actual hard. Do you feel me on this? It's like I'm making up the feeling and the story that's keeping me kind of stuck in this same thing. You're going to feel resistance, you're going to feel all of those things. Do it anyway, because the boundary here is about loving yourself enough to decide that the quality of your life matters. Do you feel me on that? And that's going to require your power and your input and you deciding where you're going to take this thing. Click, click. All right, my loves. I love you so much. That's a wrap. If you would like to come into my world, the Spiritual Coach Training Program is open for early enrollment. This is my 6-month in-depth training curriculum on mindset, energetics, identity, embodiment, and coaching mastery. It is a deeply transformative program. You not only will learn how to guide your clients, how to lead in a more powerful way, but you're also going to go through your own transformation. So if you are interested in that, you can come check out the details in the show notes below, or you can check out the link in my bio. And I will see you guys here on Wednesday for another episode of The Morning Show. Goodbye, my loves. Goodbye.